Diane in Hong Kong, and you're watching ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Bond Connect cross-border trading scheme launches, giving global traders access to the mainland market via Hong Kong. Carrie Lam makes education a top priority on her first day at the office as the city's chief executive. And Shinzo Abe is left reeling after elections in Tokyo sees the Prime Minister's party hit with an historic defeat. Oh, it's Chief Executive Carrie Lam's first day at the office, and she's been out in force to show education is a top priority. Lam said the Executive Council will discuss pumping an extra $5 billion in recurrent spending into the education sector. The cash injection is one of the major promises made in her election manifesto. Speaking to the press this morning, Lam said it took 3 months for her and stakeholders to reach a consensus on how the government should allocate the money. Lam says she'll unveil part of her plan in LegCo this Wednesday, and hopefully schools can enjoy the new resources in time for the new school year, which begins in September. She added that the Education Bureau will review the controversial school test BCA.
I have this feeling that over a period of time, people tend to take a very polarized position. So it's either for or against, but I certainly and personally believe that there's always a middle ground for us to reach consensus and to move on to achieve the original purpose of this assessment, and also to relieve the burden and pressure on young students as well as their parents.
A lot on the plate for her cabinet as well. New Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Patrick Nips said restarting the political reform process could only happen when the time is right and amid an appropriate social atmosphere. He said his priority is to move forward with the Big Bay Area Economic Integration Plan. Meanwhile, Development Bureau Chief Michael Wong said he hoped Hong Kong could walk out of the deadlock over land supply and that the government will continue to look for new land. Now, the Vice Chairwoman of the Basic Law Committee, Elsie Leung, says Hong Kong has the constitutional responsibility to introduce the Article 23 National Security Law. But she rejected claims that President Xi Jinping or Beijing has in any way pressured the government to enact it.
The government is obligated to lead the discussion. We have to understand that the Article 23 isn't meant for the central government to clamp down on Hong Kong people's freedom. We as citizens have the responsibility to protect national security. I can tell Carrie Lam as the new chief executive has the confidence and determination to carry it out.
And coming up next, the latest from the world of business.
Yes, a big day for the markets here in Hong Kong today, marking the first day of a much-anticipated Bond Connect program between Hong Kong's exchange and China, which will allow foreign investors to buy Chinese government debt. Evelina Leung has more.
Barely days after obsessing over Hong Kong and China's political unity, and it's the financial links between them that are now in focus. This morning marked the opening of Bond Connect at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. It's a new program giving international investors access to China's huge government debt market.
After months of detailed preparation by the Central People's Government, the Hong Kong SAR government, and the relevant institutions in both places, we are about to witness the launch of Bond Connect. Bond Connect marks another new chapter in the development of mutual capital markets access between the mainland and Hong Kong.
The new program means that institutional investors like banks and investment funds can buy and sell Chinese bonds through Hong Kong in what will be known as northbound trading. So-called southbound trading, which would be Chinese investors trading Hong Kong and overseas bonds, is not yet permitted. Within minutes of opening, billions of yuan worth of assets were already being traded.
I expect it to become the most significant channel facilitating new international access and participation in China's interbank bond market, and will enhance its price discovery and liquidity. It further strengthens Hong Kong's position as an international financial center.
China is the world's third largest bond market in the world, worth an estimated $9 trillion. Until now, overseas holdings were less than 2%. By allowing an increase in the supply of yuan-dominated assets held by foreign investors, Beijing is also trying to internationalize its currency. The new program follows a similar one called Stock Connect, which launched in 2014 to connect the Shanghai and Hong Kong stock exchanges.
You know, the fact that they're betting on Hong Kong with these pilots indicates to the extent that, you know, attempts to use onshore pilot programs have failed. I mean, the reason the Bond Connect is running is because of a lack of enthusiasm for QFII and these other programs, right? The reason you have the Shanghai, Hong Kong Stock Connect, these other things, is partly because, you know, people are quite anxious about the state of governance.
It's no coincidence that this launch comes as Hong Kong marks 20 years since the handover. The hopes here, no doubt, are that this new program will help secure its financial status for the next 20 to come.
Well, meanwhile, positive data out of China today will buoy sentiment there. The country's manufacturing was seen up in June, growing at its fastest for 3 months. Data from Caixin and markets showed that factories in the world's second largest economy cranked back into growth mode after unexpectedly slipping in June. New orders and production were up in a sign of a modest recovery, according to the private survey, which collects reactions from purchasing managers across the country. Recent data suggests that recent economic strength in China is dependent on heavy industry and continued government stimulus. Well, let's take a look at how that affected markets. Here in Hong Kong, we saw the Hang Seng finish almost flat. The index of leading shares up 0.08% at the close, finishing on just over 25,784 points. HSBC was one of the first to trade using Bond Connect, and so it saw its shares rising by 1.24% at the close. Financials in general seeing a bounce from increased access to China through that program. Blue chips underperforming overall, though, with the telecoms and utilities sectors dragging the index down. Well, it looks like it's going to be a busy week for global markets. One of the biggest events that investors will be looking at is, of course, the G20, where climate change and environmental issues are expected to be divisive. Many will also be looking for any signs of the sort of hawkish moves on monetary policy that gave markets around the world jitters last week. David Pollard has the details.
The port city of Hamburg, venue for the coming G20 summit. With protests planned, it's not all likely to be plain sailing. There might even be waves in the conference halls too.
The international risks have hardly been greater than they are now, and yet the United States decided to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement.
For markets, the tension is over central banks. The euro and sterling leapt last week on hints of tightening from the ECB and the BOE. European equities ended June on a loss. Traders hoping this week they won't repeat it.
We're in that summer period where they don't tend to go anywhere, really, at least on average. They might struggle to make sustained gains until September, October, but I would not be surprised to see dips firmly bought throughout the rest of this year and into 2018, with the continued secular bull market pushing into its 5th year.
But with a packed data diary, some volatility is likely. Industrial output numbers from Germany, France and Britain, plus PMIs from across the globe. And then, at the end of the week, the big one. US non-farm payrolls.
The focus will be there, again, not on the jobs number itself, but the wage figures. Is there an increase in wages? Does it justify the Fed's optimism about the US economy? Does it justify the move in June?
And for Britain, a similar question. Will a host of retail trading statements from the likes of Ocado and Sainsbury's provide more sustenance for the hawks at the Bank of England, or confirm UK consumers are steadily losing their appetite for buying?
Well, while markets try to keep their feet firmly planted on the ground, in Nevada, consumers have got their heads in the clouds. The American state is the only one where both gambling and prostitution are legal, and it's now added recreational marijuana use to its list of legitimate adult vices. Sales kicked off over the weekend in more than a dozen shops there. You wouldn't exactly say it was low-key either, with a rapturous reception, as you can see. The state joins 4 others, and the District of Columbia is legalizing pots. Authorized shops will be able to sell up to an ounce, which is 28 grams, but only to customers aged 21 years or older. It also means the state can tax sales, which has long been an argument for legalization.
This shows that marijuana is now a legally recognized form of entertainment, and that's what we do in Nevada. We are the entertainment capital of the world.
So from bonds to bongs, how about that for a business roundup?
Fantastic one. Thanks, Joel. Well, it's time for a break, but there's plenty more to come, including CNN hits back at Donald Trump after the US president posts a video of himself striking a man with the broadcaster's logo superimposed over his head.
On the road to becoming the best in the field, we pledge to revamp the world through television. We pave roads between humans and nature. We speak the same language. We build a tunnel to the other side of the world, reveal thought-provoking images that you can't look away.
Welcome to the ViuTV News Roundup.
ViuTVSix. Connect the world. We are one.
Who are you?
FBI. An elite team that analyzes the most twisted criminal minds.
What, you think all we do is serial killers? Trust me, we cover the whole spectrum of psychos.
OMG.
Oh my God.
Anticipating the perpetrator's next moves before they can strike.
How does one collect love? Rage, hatred, fear. These are things that we're trained to look for. Emerson said, all is riddle, and the key to a riddle is another riddle.
Got any advice?
Just trust your instincts.
Get the mind game on. Criminal Minds. Tonight at 9:30 on ViuTV6. When it comes to making money for nothing, this lady knows a trick or two.
Sorry, Spotty, before you throw that away, is there any chance I can have a quick chat to you about it?
Sure.
With her passion in vintage items.
I love rifling through the rubbish. Look at that absolute box of joy. These are just